Good morning, Collide. You guys get to spend a day in the life with me. So we're going to talk about something today that all of us know about, whether we're online all the time or not. And before you guys even tune out and say, hey, my parents don't let me have a phone and I'm not allowed to go on social media, we all know about content creation because we either see it or we share it or we post it. So let's talk about it. All right, so let's be real. Not all of us are famous influencers. If you are, that's super cool. But for those of us that aren't, why does this really matter to us? But believe me, whatever you view or share, whether it's online or not, leaves an impact. So let me ask you a couple questions. Have you ever lost track of time watching YouTube or scrolling on Instagram or TikTok? Have you ever taken more pictures of something than actually spent time enjoying the moment? Or have you ever posted something just to make other people feel jealous? I don't know about you, but my answers to every single one of those questions is a big fat yes. And let me be clear, that's not always a bad thing. It's fun to see what's happening around the world, to keep up with our friends and family, and to post what we're up to. But I don't know if we think too much about the impact of the content that we post or create. We post things without thinking about how they affect others. We leave comments without remembering who might be hurt on the other side of them. And we post videos with songs without ever even thinking about the meaning of those songs. Creating content is a big responsibility. It's more than posts. It reflects part of who you are, what you think or believe, or even how you feel, for better or worse. And that leaves a big impact on who you are and also the people that are on the other side of those posts. So believe it or not, we can actually learn a lot about Jesus and what he says about content creation. So he's not walking around in an IRL stream that we're watching on Twitch, but we actually can gain a lot of wisdom about what he says about this topic. One of his best friends, Matthew, records all of his life, doesn't post it on YouTube, but he writes it down for us to be able to read. So he records one of his most famous sermons called the Sermon on the Mount. So we're going to read about it in Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 21. But what you need to know is obviously they didn't have social media or Instagram. They're not famous influencers, but Jesus actually tells them what it looks like to place value in things and where we place our value. So he's talking specifically to this group of people about money. So let's check it out. And you guys can either use your Bibles or your phones. So let's read together. Don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desire of your heart will also be. Okay, so Jesus says a lot in those couple verses. He talks about two major things that I want to break down. He talks about storing our treasures up on earth and storing them up in heaven. When we store up our treasures on earth, those things fade away. They get old. They don't leave a lasting impact. But when we store our treasures in heaven, those things never go away. They don't ever disappear, and they have an amazing impact. So Jesus reminds us that we want to have our treasures in heaven. So let's look again at verse 21. It says, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. So the word heart is another way about talking about our motivations. These are the things that we care about. If our motivation is something like fame or success or being able to be someone that people always talk about, that's what our heart cares about. But if our heart is in something like Jesus, choosing to be good, loving other people, and we're motivated the way that Jesus is, that's going to show how our impact will come across. There our motivations will be, and that is where our heart lies. So in other words, create content that is kind to yourself and others. If we want to put what Jesus said into practice, we have to check our hearts and be aware of what motivates us, because what you value and where your heart is will eventually show up. I don't know about you, but I want the impact of what I post and share and talk about online to be positive. I want it to be rooted in building others up. I want it to be kind. And I want the same for you. So what if we all committed to letting kindness motivate the content we create? Pictures, comments, and videos in every piece of content we create. What if we chose to be motivated by kindness? What if we chose to create content that's kind to ourselves and others? I think there's 3 big questions that we can think about when it comes to creating content that's kind to ourselves and other people. And the first is is the content that we're creating, how are we being kind to ourselves when we're thinking about it? When we post stuff, do we over-examine what we look like? Are we remembering that God designed us to be unique and God said that we were a masterpiece? So how are we being kind to ourselves when we post things? The second question that we can ask is what we post, what the content that we create, is that being kind to others?
Thank you.
The things that we share, is it leaving a positive message on the world? Or is it leaving something that maybe isn't as kind? We want those things to be a positive impact and not necessarily a negative one. So the third question that we can start to ask ourselves is, how is the content that I'm creating, how is that reflecting kindness? So maybe we need to ask ourselves, is what we're posting reflecting kindness? Or maybe we need to ask God to be able to help us to be more kind. And we'll start to see that as we do this, as we choose kindness more, it'll change who we are and our posts will look even more different. Now imagine if everyone in middle school chose to create content that was kind to ourselves and other people. Middle school would be so much better, right? Even the internet would be a much better place. Remember, our heart follows what motivates us. So if our heart is motivated by acting like Jesus and being kind and being loving to other people, that is where it will go. So guys, as you head to small groups, think through this question. Are you choosing to be kind to yourself and others online? And thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope my life was relatively interesting for you guys.